Okay. Yeah, no, fine.
Ask away. I'm just looking for gloves.
Okay. Let's just start with the formalities real quick.
Sure.
What's your full name and position at the college?
Lisa Markley, Markley, and I'm an adjunct nutrition professor in the science and math division, but I feel like they're calling it something else these days. I should look at my signature on my email.
Always changing it around on you.
Yeah, science and math.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Oh, you, because you're the cutest.
I'm just gonna look and see if I can. I just
If
wanted
you
to make
can,
sure I
it's
tell you the
totally
right
fine.
thing. But go ahead, you can continue.
So honestly, I was kind of interested. It doesn't quite relate to the thyroid thing yet, but you said that you teach online.
Yes.
How does that work when it's not really in the lab and everything?
Well, I don't do culinary classes.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
just
a
nutrition?
dietitian, registered dietitian, and I teach online Biology 110, which is
Oh,
called
cool.
Nutrition for Life. And it's basically, it's a 2-credit hour class. It's kind of it's a non-majors class also. And it's a class that's just kind of a good introduction to nutrition. And if somebody wants to make healthful changes to their diet, it's a good place to start. If they want to do a degree in dietetics or nursing, then they should take the higher level 235 class.
Yeah, but that's a good kind of starting point.
Yep.
All right, getting into the meat of everything. So for people who may not be aware, honestly, I wasn't until I started this article. Like, what is like a thyroid and what is like hypothyroid
Yeah.
and all that stuff?
The thyroid is a gland that's situated in your neck. It's it's the shape of a butterfly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's involved in a lot of different processes in the body that
Really?
Everything from how you metabolize like energy to how you regulate your body temperature. It
Dang.
also can impact mood and cognitive function. It has a relationship to bone health. It has a relationship to heart health because it can regulate your heartbeat. It does a number of different things.
I did not realize
It
how
produces-
important that was.
It produces thyroid hormone, and every cell in your body has a receptor for this thyroid hormone that will then kind of tell it what to do.
So, how can you like tell when something's like going wrong with the thyroid?
Sometimes people will have symptoms of. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Sometimes it's hard to know for sure that it's the thyroid, and that's why sometimes it can take a little while to actually get it diagnosed if there's a dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a condition that I actually have, Hashimoto's, which
Oh,
is
really? Okay.
underactive or hypothyroidism.
Hypothyroidism. So
And-
that's like when it doesn't work well enough.
When the thyroid gland is not producing adequate amounts of thyroid hormone, it's considered to be hypothyroid or underactive. And some of the symptoms, it might take a little time for them all to develop, but one of the things that I suffered from to begin with was really extreme fatigue. And,
Oh, yeah.
It's cold hands and feet, like just hard time keeping my body temperature regulated. Sometimes people will lose hair, like start having thinner hair. Maybe the outer edge of their eyebrow starts to thin out. What else? Joint pain. So sometimes it's hard to, even high cholesterol can be a symptom. So some of those might be symptoms of other conditions. So that's why it's one of those things that's kind of hard to
Pinpoint exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is it chronic?
Yeah, it can be a lifelong thing, but sometimes people doing the right, nutrition and lifestyle approaches are able to put it into remission.
Really?
The type of thyroid issue I have is called Hashimoto's. It's autoimmune in nature.
Okay.
And
So that affects your immune system.
yeah, it's autoimmune, and over 90% of people who have hypothyroidism have the autoimmune version of it, which is called Hashimoto's. And that's where the body is producing antibodies that are kind of destroying the thyroid tissue, and then that's why the thyroid tissue becomes compromised in its ability to produce more thyroid hormone.
So it just is like a self-destructive circle almost.
Mhm.
Is that chronic for you?
Well, so since I started paying more attention and understanding what's going on with my body, I've been able to bring my antibodies down.
Mhm.
Like when I first had them checked, they were sky high, and then just through some diet and lifestyle measures, I've been able to bring my antibodies down, so I'm having less inflammation on my thyroid. And then there are some other labs that they look at, like, like the thyroid hormone.
The cholesterol maybe.
Yeah, but to look at thyroid function, they're looking at thyroid hormone, like T4, which is inactive thyroid, and T3. So you're asking if it was chronic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that can be lifelong, but there are some things that
There's
people
ways
can do
you can kind of like
with nutrition and
mitigate it a
lifestyle
little bit.
to alleviate some of the symptoms, maybe alleviate some of the, just alleviate some of the symptoms that somebody might be having.
How long ago have you had it?
I've had it for about 10 years.
Not a long time, but it seems like you really figured it out almost.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the cookbook. How were you kind of like inspired to write all of this?
Yeah, so I co-wrote the cookbook with a really good friend of mine. Her name's Jill Grunwald, and she is also has a background in nutrition, and she also has Hashimoto's.
Oh, really?
So we decided to kind of work to collaborate on this because she was coaching clients with different hormonal imbalances like Hashimoto's, and giving them, nutrition education around things that they could do. And she's somebody that I reached out to when I first was having issues, and she helped me. And then I was teaching cooking classes at the time, and wanted to help take that nutrition information and translate it into healthy
actual
recipes.
stuff that people can use.
Exactly. So so we worked together to create. We basically researched all the nutrients that support thyroid function, for everything from like, you can kind of so we were like, okay, well, what does the thyroid need to function from a nutritional standpoint? And it needs, it needs vitamin D, it needs some of these minerals like copper, iron, manganese, selenium, zinc. It needs omega-3s to reduce inflammation in the body. It needs B12. It needs all of these nutrients in some capacity, whether it's to help produce thyroid hormone, T4, or convert it to its active form, which is T3.
Okay.
Or to reduce inflammation in the body. So we researched all the nutrients that support thyroid health, and then from there looked at the best food sources of these nutrients. So created the springboard of foods that contain these nutrients, and then this was my inspiration to develop the recipes. So my job in this cookbook was to write over 100 recipes based on this nutritional
Wow, so
springboard.
you started with that as kind of like your roadmap almost. You
exactly.
Reverse engineered all that stuff.
Exactly.
And then using all those ingredients, you were able to make over 100 recipes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's if you look at this list, it's things that you would see that are common to other healthful diets.
Yeah.
Like the Mediterranean diet is going to be high in seafood and high in dark green leafy vegetables and whole grains and things like that. So it's nothing that's totally unique necessarily to thyroid issues, but we wanted to.
It's more focused.
We wanted to take the information and kind of from the angle of how it would support the thyroid, but anybody could benefit from eating all of these healthful foods that are listed here. So then I have a practical piece in the cookbook that's like how to set up your kitchen. It's called the Essential Thyroid Kitchen.
It's really complete. I'm impressed.
Yeah, so it's basically pantry staples and ingredients. So like if there's something in one of the recipes that I call for that somebody's like, well, what is quinoa, or what's forbidden rice, what's coconut oil, they can look in this section and read about it and learn how to use it or how to store it, and then the recipes are here. So then, we were talking about that, we kind of called out the nutrients and wanted to show. So this is our nutrient key. So when you see at the bottom of a recipe that
nice.
This recipe contains vitamin A, it's the beta carotene form, B1, B2, B6, all of these nutrients. Then you can go over here and be like, well, what's EG? That's the EGCG, which is a phytonutrient found in green tea. It's called epicatechin. It's a mouthful. That's why we have it abbreviated.
Dang. How long did it take to research all that?
Well, a long time. Well, we put the book it took us, we both have families. We both have other full-time jobs.
Oh, yeah. So then
it took us about 5 years, about 4 years. We self-published the book too, so it's not like we were working on the book or writing the recipes and doing the research 100% of the time. We were doing all the logistical business stuff
everything.
Too.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then at the bottom of each recipe, we've got these icons like, is it vegan friendly? A lot of people want to know, is it paleo? This is 30 minutes or less, and then AIP and EP are here. This is the page that basically talks about, this is our guide to the recipes. Like if you wanted to know if a recipe suited your particular dietary practice, then this is the information we share. Autoimmune protocol, this is not super common, but for some people working with practitioners on their thyroid health, they might be put on an autoimmune diet. They might be put on an elimination diet. So these are a little bit more specific to those therapeutic diets, that certain recipes in here would fit those categories as well. But like I said, we kind of try to make it more user friendly for people who might be following a certain therapeutic approach. But these recipes, if you just look at it, it's not anything. It's not anything that you know what I mean.
Yeah, it seems pretty
the general
kind of general, but
well.
it's more sort of tailored to...
Exactly. Like this sweet potato hummus, it's hummus, right? But I tried to amplify the nutrition by adding vitamin A rich sweet potatoes and adding curry powder that's got turmeric, which is a really powerful anti-inflammatory spice. So that's just one example of ways that I might take a traditional
so strategic.
recipe and kind of amplify the nutrition to it. Some people might have difficulty digesting beans, so I made a sunflower seed hummus that's actually pureed sunflower seeds instead of the beans. Yeah, so there's things like that. If somebody can't do grains, there's a golden cauliflower rice recipe, again utilizing turmeric and some of those other anti-inflammatory spices. And then there's my favorite chapter, I think, to write was probably the soups and stews. There's a Tuscan white bean and quinoa minestrone. So if somebody wants to find ways to use quinoa, they can just add a handful, stir that into the soup pretty easily. So these are just some of the examples.
I thought this was interesting. Like, when did you figure out, like, okay, this is enough recipes? Like, did you kind of when did you think of stopping?
Well, I think we can't. What's that? That's a good question. That is a good question. I think we came up with the title first. So it was like we were like, oh, let's do this title, and arbitrarily chose 100 recipes, or chose to feature 100 recipes, and then we almost went back to like, well, maybe we'll just do 75. Because it was like, it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
The whole recipe testing process and everything. I had about 30 or so recipe testers.
Oh, you actually hired people to...
No, we didn't. We got volunteers. good friends that were willing to volunteer their time and their taste buds to cook the recipes. So they would all cook the recipes, give me the feedback, and so every recipe was tested at least 3 times, but usually up to 5 times if I had to go back to the drawing board and tweak some things. So we started with arbitrarily 100, and honestly I don't even know how many recipes are in the book. There's probably like 115. I don't remember where we ended at last count.
That's crazy.
Our goal was 100.
So you say maybe ballpark, how long did it take to create the entire book from inception all the way to where it is now?
I mean, we started conceptualizing it in early 2013, and it was published September of 2017. So more than 4 years, like 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
But like I said, we self-published it. So we worked with a local food stylist. I worked with a local photographer. So I made all the food.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times when you go with a traditional publishing house, they'll have their food stylist and the author wouldn't be involved in necessarily making and shooting the food. But I did all the prop styling and
So you set everything up kind of?
well, I had to go and pick out the bowls that we were going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you look, I had to decide, that was one of the fun things, was like creating a mood board around the photos. It's like, well, what do I want this on? So I picked this old cookie sheet that had a nice patina to it, to have the mushrooms on to kind of give it a nice warm feeling. And then I picked out placemats and bowls. Like this is a bowl that my mother-in-law's wife made, and so I was able to use things that I wanted to include into the pictures as well. Like this towel is my husband's stepmom made this towel.
Really?
You know what I mean? So it's like I got to really personalize it a little bit by picking the props.
Yeah,
that
I love
decided.
all of those compositions.
But we had to decide before we set up to take the pictures, what knife are we going to use in there? What's the background or the tabletop going to be? What pots or pans are going to be in there? Are we going to have any other we had to think through every single piece of it, from the background to anything on the side, like the platters that we use. So
the amount of detail in
basically-
this is astonishing, honestly.
and that's like some heirloom silverware that was passed down to me. So, that was kind of fun. The creative part was getting to pick out a lot of the props and things.
Trying to figure out. Do you mind, after the interview, if I could just take a couple photos of you working and setting stuff up?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Sorry.
All right, almost done. I only have a couple left. We may have already touched on this, but what are some of your goals for the cookbook?
Just to help people connect the dots between foods and nutrients. That food and nutrition can have an impact on your health, but specific to thyroid health, obviously, because that's what we wrote the cookbook, was to support people with thyroid issues. So, just to really put a nice resource into people's hands to help empower them to want to make better nutrition choices.
Yeah.
And, to cook healthier foods, but to know why. Why am I
know the science behind it a little bit?
Why do I want to eat more seafood? Because it's a good source of iodine, and I need iodine in my diet to produce thyroid hormone. Why do I want to eat more black rice? Because it's a good source of anthocyanins, which are antioxidants that help reduce inflammation in the body. So, kind of giving people the why and the how.
So, let's see here. Are books like for specific conditions like this common in the culinary world?
This particular topic doesn't have, and there are some other thyroid cookbooks out there. We feel like this is kind of a first of its kind cookbook, like the way that it was executed and the degree of information, the level of information and level of detail that we provide, as well as the beautiful pictures that we've included. But you do see a number of other cookbooks out there, like you'll see eating to prevent cancer, like Cancer Fighting Kitchen, heart disease. You'll see books targeted towards more common.
But this seems pretty niche, honestly.
This is pretty niche, but here's the thing,
But it's also like general, right? Like so, anyone can make this stuff and it looks great.
So I think 1 in 8 people will have thyroid dysfunction in their lifetime, which is the same statistic as breast cancer. 1 in 8 will have breast cancer. So, even though it's somewhat niche, it's something that's kind of more common than you might think.
Wow, that's statistic. Dang. So do you have any words for anyone maybe dealing with hypothyroidism or anything you'd like other people who don't know about it to take with them?
Yeah, I would say it's because it's a condition that's challenging sometimes to get diagnosed. Just speaking from my own personal experience, I had to see multiple doctors before I finally knew what was going on with my health. And over that process, I had to learn little by little more and more to be an advocate for my own health and to try to figure out what kinds of questions to ask when I went in to go see the doctor and everything. But just, trying to find a practitioner to work with to help figure out, what might be going on, and then go from there. Like, what are the things that in your lifestyle you can have control over? You have control over the food that you put in your body. You have control over, how physically active you are. You have control over how many hours of sleep you get at night. So really trying to focus on those lifestyle things that will promote good health overall. So, yeah.
Have you had any responses from people from who maybe suffer from thyroidism and like the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's you could see, you would, if you want to read our Amazon reviews, we've got some really wonderful Amazon reviews of how it's impacted people's lives and kind of what they think about it.
I'll take a look at some of these. I think that